Yay! I'm so excited for this week's training. If you guys are new here, welcome. Every week we do a training, except for the last week of the month where we do a business Zoom call where you get to ask your questions on a Zoom live. This week is week 1 of June, right? We're in week 1 of June. And I'm going to walk you through how I helped my client, or how I'm helping his current client, triple his following and build a profitable community. So I pull back the curtain on these trainings and I show you exactly how I help clients, exactly what systems we walk through, what strategies we walk through, so that you can see what's going on behind the scenes. I feel like there's so much talk behind starting and building a business, and there's like a lot of surface level stuff. And I just want you guys to start. My mission for being here, if you don't know, is I see so many people with an impact that they can make, with information they want to share, and they stop themselves from doing it because they either get overwhelmed by all of the information out there, they don't know where to start, or they never start because they think they're going to fail from the get-go. And I want to put like a capiche on that. Okay, I want to put a stop to that. Okay, because I see the value that you have to bring. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you are here, you know you have something to share. You know you have something valuable. Every single one of you has a fanny pack full of wisdom, your lived experiences, your lessons you've learned, the things that you have even paid for to learn are all bits of information that you can turn around and help somebody else with. So let's rock and roll. Today, I'm walking you through my client, and here's what's wild about him. He actually spent an entire year spinning his wheels in the Make Money Online niche, promoting courses, getting minimal results, and feeling absolutely frustrated. We had so many conversations before he even became my client, which is how he became my personal client, right? He reached out to me and said, like, how are you doing this? And I've talked to him for that entire year, and then he finally came on as a client once he figured this out. He pivoted to teaching what he actually knew. Okay, he did love Make Money Online. He loved that conversation. He loved that journey. But once he realized that he was in misalignment with what he was actually leading people to, everything changed. And in just 8 months, he went from 0 to 8,800 followers on TikTok. And he built a thriving community, a paid community, by the way, with 40 members. He's just getting started. And he's now hosting his own show on the longest running live cooking show on TikTok. The difference between that previous year and this last year, alignment, messaging, and a clear process for turning his expertise into income. And that's what I'm going to walk you through. I'm going to walk you through the exact framework that I use to help him get clear on his messaging so you can see what that work looks like in real time and hopefully maybe inspire you to start. All right, let me turn off my notifications just to be sure that we don't get disturbed. All right, so here's the biggest problem that my client faced. When he came to me, he had the classic symptoms of someone who was spinning their wheels. Okay. He was creating tons of content, like 5 to 10 pieces of content a day, but he wasn't seeing consistent growth. He had followers, but they weren't converting to customers. And he knew his program was amazing, but he could not articulate why people should choose him over other programs. Now, he had done a ton of research about what was going on with other people. Like he knew what other people were doing like the back of his hand. Okay, but he was comparing himself to other food creators and feeling like he needed to identify something that they weren't doing and then he had to do it. Sound familiar? This is what happens when you skip the foundation work. I always talk about not building on quicksand, right? We want to build on concrete, and that's what we're going to do. So he built this incredible cooking program with 300 plus tutorial videos, a real community with people who were getting results, but he couldn't figure out how to get more people in the door because he had a ton of followers, he had a ton of engagement on his lives, and this is after he pivoted, right? Um, but the truth of the matter is, when I took a look at all of his stuff, it was because his messaging wasn't clear. 90% of the time, the reason why someone is not creating success is because their messaging isn't clear. So he kept saying things like, I teach people how to cook, right? But that's not specific enough. You can go to Google and look up how to cook. You can go to YouTube and look up how to cook, but he had something different. There are thousands of people teaching cooking. So why him? Why now, right? So here's the framework. The first thing that we did, and it's the same framework that I use with all of my clients when their messaging isn't converting. Step one, we define the specific avatar. So instead of people who want to learn how to cook, we got very specific. These are adults who are eating out constantly, who are spending way too much money on eating out, but they also don't know how to fix it. Like they know that they can go home and cook, but they don't know how to cook. They're not confident in the kitchen. They've been taught how to shop at grocery stores incorrectly. They don't know how to cook from scratch, or they think it's going to be complicated, so they avoid it. And they're finding themselves financially strapped because of their food habits. Okay, so we figured all that out from his avatar breakdown. So you can see the difference. We're not talking to everybody who just wants to learn how to cook. We're talking to a specific avatar. Okay. Step two, we use this avatar to get into their head. And here's where it gets powerful. So I had my client describe his perfect avatar to my AI system. And then we asked it to write a 500-word journal entry from this avatar's perspective. We were like, please pretend to be this avatar. And I want you to write a journal entry about your struggles. Why do we do that? Well, because in our marketing, in our content, in our emails, in any opt-in pages that we create, anywhere that we show up in our marketing, we want to use her words, the avatar's words, not ours. Because when the avatar reads that content or watches that content, she immediately sees herself in that situation. She sees her thoughts being reflected back to her. And she goes, oh my gosh, this person gets me. And that is an immediate follow, an immediate connection piece, and the beginning of a trust journey with my client. Okay. The third thing we do is we actually identify the real problem behind the problem. Okay. So my client thought that the problem was people just didn't know how to cook and they'd never been shown how to cook and they don't know how to shop at the grocery store. But when we dug deeper, we had this journal entry that we did through AI. We really pulled back the curtain on this avatar and we got really deep. We realized that the real problem was confidence. Confidence in the kitchen. They were afraid to fail. They were afraid to buy all these ingredients and have them go to waste because their meal comes out like crap. They don't really know how to save money at the grocery store. They don't know, is organic important? Is organic not important? They don't know how to chop certain things, right? They just weren't confident in the kitchen. So they would try those like 60-second Instagram videos for a recipe, and they would fail because what my client identified was the steps were missing from those videos. So the problem isn't cooking, it's kitchen confidence. Hallelujah. Okay, we found it. So then, step 4, we find the authority angle. What I had my client do was make a list of the reasons why he was an expert. You guys know I hate that word, and I don't mean an expert in the way that the world means expert. When I say expert, I just mean you have expertise. And all that means is that you have years, months, even weeks of experience doing something that the person who wants to do that thing doesn't have. You have experience. You have lived experiences. You have lessons that you've learned. You have tried things and failed. You have mistakes. You have all of this experience behind you. That's what I mean by expertise. So I asked him to list out all these things that he had. He has 20 years restaurant experience. He's worked at high-end resorts and casinos and country clubs. He has been teaching restaurants the concepts for home use. And he's only one of 12 hosts on TikTok's longest running cooking show. Those are some fanny pack moments, right? If you know me, you know I love my little fanny pack moments. These are wisdom. One of the things that I always remember, I don't even know where this came from, but it like sticks out in my head, is that wisdom is just experience with a microphone. I love that. Everyone's like, I don't have any wisdom. I'm not old and wise. Yes, you do. You have experience, and wisdom is just experience with a microphone. Okay, so it's in your fanny pack. So he wasn't leading with his authoritative information. He wasn't leading with that. So we are repositioning him as the guy who teaches restaurant secrets for your home kitchen, as the guy who says, anyone can cook. Let me teach you the confidence steps. Let me teach you how to save money, right? This is what restaurants do when they want to make the most amount of money per dish. How do they do that? Well, I'm going to teach you how the restaurants have these money saving secrets. And then step 5, our last step, is that we created the value bridge. So instead of him selling cooking lessons and recipes, which is what everyone else is doing out there, because those people are marketing to somebody who just wants to learn how to cook, and that's not what my client is doing. Now he positions his program as building kitchen confidence using restaurant secrets. So he's not competing with every other cooking teacher anymore, right? He's his own category. He filled a gap and he answered a need. So here are his results. You ready? And this and I want you to hear in this like what this means for you. After implementing his messaging framework, his content started to resonate differently. People began engaging more with his posts. He's converting more followers. And he's gained clarity. This is the most important thing. He's gained clarity on what makes him different and can lead with that. He already had built an amazing program. He had members in there. The content was there. Sometimes that's the easiest part, is building what you want to build. But the value is there, by the way. The people who were in there were having wins, but what was missing was the bridge between what he offered over here, okay, and what his ideal customers needed to hear to say yes. He was missing the connection piece. This is the work that separates successful digital business owners from those who stay stuck. So if you're here and you're watching this and you're thinking, I need this kind of clarity for my business, here's what I want you to do. I want you to first ask yourself, can you clearly explain in 30 seconds or less who you help and what specific transformation you help that person walk through? If not, you need to figure that out first. Second, if you're ready to build a digital business with this level of strategic thinking from day one, then Pop Lock and Profit is exactly what you need. This avatar deep dive that we did is just one teeny tiny piece of what we cover in the course. Because inside of Pop Lock and Profit, you actually get the complete messaging framework that I used with this client and every single client, how to validate your idea before you actually build anything, which is so important. I don't want you wasting time building something that people don't need or that people aren't going to pay for. The trust funnel system that turns strangers into buyers. Think of it as a conveyor belt. Okay, they're going to start off over here and eventually we want them to get to the paid offer, but most times people are missing the actual conveyor belt action. There's nothing that takes them down. Their conveyor belt is broken. So somebody comes on, the conveyor belt doesn't move, the offer's over here, and this person never gets to it because there's nothing bridging this gap. That's the trust funnel. And then everything that you need to go from idea to income. As always, I'll leave the link in the comments below, but I want you to remember, success in digital business is not about working harder. It's about working with a proven strategy and, most importantly, putting blinders on so that you are not distracted by what everyone else is telling you need to do or don't need to do or shouldn't do. Like, find one person that you want to follow their strategy for. And if that happens to be Pop Lock and Profit, hallelujah, that's exactly why I created it. Because my client was posting sometimes 10 times a day, but still struggling. And he could have quit. And he talked to me many times about quitting. And I'm so glad that he didn't, because all he was missing was this conveyor belt. That's it. So don't make that same mistake, okay? Get the strategy first, then execute the confidence as you go. I'll see you, if you choose, in Pop Lock and Profit. Virtual high five. I love you so much. If you have any questions about this, just let me know below.